The thing about the United States of America that makes us different from many other places is not simply that we're a pure democracy. In other words, that the majority rules. It's that we're a republic. It's that the minority is safe, protected from the tyranny of the majority. And that goes for the way our political system is set up, and I like to think that goes for our kind of reaction, our social reaction to someone who takes this kind of stand, whether or not it's popular, and you can agree or disagree or deal with the content of Colin Kaepernick's message. The idea that there should be this pressure to force him to conform and behave like everyone else is anti-American at its core, at our very foundation. You don't have to stand. And in my opinion, he should love America for that. And I'm sure he does love his right to do that. But the irony for the people who complain about it, he should stand up, is that if it's compulsory, in other words, if you have to stand up or it's unpatriotic, then if you stand, you're not necessarily showing anything that's patriotic. It's not a choice you're making. It's something that everyone's supposed to do. How is that really an act of patriotism? And when people bring up veterans, which is nothing Colin Kaepernick brought up, he brought up a domestic policing issue. When people bring up, oh, the veterans stand, so you should stand, that's kind of a buzzword. It's a catch-all. Oh, back off, because when you hear veterans, who doesn't support our men and women in uniform, even if you don't support all of our foreign policy, we all support our men and women in uniform. So people say, veterans stand up, you should too, and that's supposed to get everyone to back off. And I think that's kind of, you're trying to intimidate someone off of their stand. The Kaepernick is saying that his conscience won't allow him to stand until there is some remedy. There have been plenty of remedies. Things have gotten a lot better, but he feels that it's still not remedied. And by the way, when you look at differences in per capita income, education, and the way the police treat people, obviously he's not wrong about that. It hasn't been perfectly remedied.
Let's understand something. This, to me, is the greatest country in the world. To me and most black folks I know, we can talk all the stuff we want to. We ain't trying to go nowhere else. Because we hear all day long about the liberties that come associated with being an American citizen. And we see people, taking boats, putting their lives in danger, crossing barriers and beyond to get to this country, which speaks to the greatness of America. We understand all of that. However, by virtue of looking at the other things that take place in other parts of this world, whether it's Iraq, it's Syria, it's Yemen, it's Mexico, for crying out loud, where the list goes on and on. Because we're willing, or because we've had it thrown in our face, rather, what takes place in other parts of this world where they don't have liberties that we have.
Russia, Turkey, Venezuela.
That speaks to the greatness of America. The problem with that is that black folks are saying, okay, that's fine, good and dandy, but what about us? And what about we're dealing with while we're here? Because when you talk about brutality on the part of police, and the reason why I phrase it that way, just for everybody out there, is because there are black police officers, there are Latino police officers, there are white police officers, and by and large, approximately 95%, if not better, are law-abiding citizens who go about the business of protecting and serving our communities every single day. We're talking about the actions of a few rogue individuals who happen to be wearing police uniforms that conduct themselves in insidious fashions. Having said all of that, because it transpires, because what Dr. Dyson pointed out, how you are licensed by the state to be enforcement officials, yet you're getting away with conducting yourself in this fashion. And then Colin Kaepernick alluded to paid leave, which is another way of saying a vacation, for crying out loud, in a lot of people's eyes, while black folks are laying in the streets. Those are very, very real issues. And what it brings us back to is a reality that a lot of folks in America do not want to accept. This is still a racist society. It is still a racist environment that black people are subjected to every single day. Per capita income, education, etc., etc. Again, I'm big on the fact that we got to address our own issues. Everything ain't everyone else's fault. Some things we have to own. But the flip side is that's not a license for white Americans. to walk around ignoring the iniquities exercised by some people from their community against black people, too. It's not a license to ignore that or forget that.